Good evening from WYMT election headquarters. I'm Steve Hensley. The polls here in Eastern Kentucky closed just moments ago for the 2023 May primary election. We will have team coverage coming up in just a moment, but as you know, we've also been dealing with severe weather today. For several hours, we've had a few tornado warnings. Fortunately, no significant damage so far. We've had a few reports of trees down, large hail, things like that, but reports are still coming in, and our first alert weather day continues, although the storms are finally moving out. Meteorologist Evan Hatter joins us now with more on what to expect in the next few hours. Evan?
Thank goodness, Steve, as we finally start to wind things down on this busy election Tuesday all throughout the region. Still some scary-looking dark clouds from our Buffalo Mountain camera here in Perry County, but no severe weather in progress, at least really almost anywhere in Kentucky. We've cleared everything just about out at this point. Still watching some heavy rain eastern parts of Johnson County into northeastern parts of Floyd County. That's pushing into northern Pike and into Martin County, so still some heavy rain. Not a lot of thunder and lightning with that, though. Still finally, actually, we just finally cleared the tornado warning out of Dickinson County in Virginia. That's pushed on to the east, but so far we have several reports of hail throughout the region, trees down, especially into southwest Virginia. A few more showers along the Kentucky-Tennessee border, and there's that heavy line of storms finally pushing out. In fact, I think we only have one warning left, and it's that severe thunderstorm warning in parts of Buchanan County, Virginia. Once that's done, we're done. We still have the level 3 enhanced risk for severe weather, but that's going to get dropped off a little bit later on tonight as we finally calm things down. Temperatures down into the 60s. You see, they have to pop up. We haven't used them a whole lot today. So we're going to get our forecast here prepared. We've been on and off with tornado warnings all evening long, so we're going to prepare the forecast and have the latest in a few minutes. Steve?
Good news is the storms are moving out, though. Evan, thank you very much. Let's talk about the election now. Several polling stations around the area reporting lower voter turnout than usual, and that was pretty much to be expected. A 10 to 15% voter turnout was predicted, and it looks like that may end up being the case. Some also believe this severe weather this afternoon didn't certainly help matters at all. WYMT's Keaton Hall joins us now with more from one of the polls.
I've been to several of the polling locations here in Hazard, and they're all reporting the same thing, a lower than usual voter turnout. Earlier this evening, polling workers at the station in Lothair told me they had about 80 voters. That's about half the normal amount. Even less at the Perry County Public Library, where they say it's about a third of usual. Perry County Clerk Wayne Napier says they prepared for the smaller turnout, but the weather may be pushing it even lower.
They were saying maybe 10%. I checked about 30 minutes ago, and we voted 9% in the county. So they pretty much hit it pretty close. And I'm thinking the weather will probably keep it from 9 to 10%.
Now, long lines may not be an issue this time, but it is important to remember that if you're in line to vote before 6, you can't be turned away. In Hazard, Keaton Hall, WYMT Mountain News.
All right, Keaton, thank you very much. And as our coverage of the primary election continues, WYMT's Alyssa Williams is in Laurel County to learn more about their voting system and how people can be assured their votes are counted.
Since 2020, the Laurel County Elections Board has been implementing a voting system that helps voters know that their votes will be counted correctly. Laurel County Clerk Tony Brown says voters there are given a card with their selections on it before turning it in to be scanned. Brown says this not only gives voters the chance to ensure their selections are correct, but it's another way the election board can confirm votes are not duplicated or undercounted.
A lot of people enjoy it. A lot of people like sticking a ballot in, getting to look at the ballot before they stick it in the scanner. Before, we just had the machines that you just push the button and push vote, and that was it.
Brown says this system is actually used in more eastern Kentucky counties than in any other region, but you can also see the system used in certain northern Kentucky counties. In London, Alyssa Williams, WYMT Mountain News.
Alyssa, thank you. Laurel County also has a system that allows people to go online and see the unofficial results from the election as they are put in. Kentucky State Treasurer Allison Ball is on the ballot today, hoping to secure the Republican nomination for State Auditor this time. sending her vote through early this morning here in Eastern Kentucky. The Prestonsburg politician is serving her second term as treasurer, elected in 2015 and again in 2019, and is now hoping to fill the role of auditor of public accounts. So she and her family made their way to the polls at the Old Prestonsburg Courthouse. Ball says elections like the primary are always an exciting time for her, but this year was more fulfilling as she brought her son along.
Today is especially special for me because I'm on the ballot. I just walked in with my little boy who is 4 years old. I think it's important for him to understand about voting in America and our democratic process. I am excited about seeing the results. I feel very good about it, and we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
Ball is running against Republican candidate Derek Petties, and the winner of the Republican nomination will face Kim Reeder, the sole Democratic candidate, in November. Well, now to the governor's race. The GOP gubernatorial candidate and Somerset Mayor Alan Keck is preparing for the election results to start rolling in. WYMT's Olivia Calfee is live at the polling location where Keck voted earlier this morning. Olivia, what's happening now that the polls have closed?
All right, thank you, Steve. I am live at the Rocky Hollow Recreation Center, and you asked me earlier if I thought that the weather had impacted any of these people getting out to the polls to vote, and I can tell you so far for the past hour or so it seemed to be pretty steady. But as you all know, I am live in Somerset, where GOP candidate for Governor Alan Keck is currently the mayor. Some of the video that you were seeing is from yesterday when Keck made a stop in Jackson and several other places in eastern Kentucky during his 24-hour campaign blitz before the big day today. But I actually just received a statement from Keck about how he is feeling so far. And he said in part, quote, "These people are at the core of why I want to serve as governor, to dream big and create policies that make their lives better. I feel good about the way we've led this campaign, and no matter what the results show, I am committed to continuing the conversation about how we help Kentucky start winning again," end quote. And just about an hour ago, one of the poll workers actually told me now that the polls are closed, they expect to have these results on the door behind me within the next 30 minutes or so. I think they told me about 6:30. So now that these results are starting to come in, I am actually about to head over to where Alan Keck and his campaign are, where they are tonight for the event as the results start to come back in. But for now, I will hand it back over to you, Steve.
All right, Olivia, and we'll continue to check in with you as the evening goes on. We have reporters also across central Kentucky as well, covering the other gubernatorial campaigns of the major candidates. Let's first go to Lexington, where Garrett Weimer is at the election party for Republican gubernatorial candidate Kelly Craft.
I'm Garrett Weimer with the Kelly Craft campaign here at the Campbell House in Lexington. Music is playing right now. The doors are open. We are beginning to see supporters, staff, volunteers, and others gather here to celebrate the end of a long, busy, and an expensive primary campaign here. Kelly Craft, we know, has been on a statewide tour with her running mate, and it has certainly been a whirlwind weekend in the home stretch of this campaign. Had Ted Cruz, the Texas senator, with her over the weekend. Vivek Ramaswamy yesterday for a couple of stops. Also yesterday, a robocall went out from Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, with an endorsement from him. And we know she finished the day yesterday in Glasgow with what she says her 138th stop of her kitchen table tour across Kentucky. Craft voted this morning at Morton Middle School here in Lexington, seemed confident as she spoke to reporters gathered there. In fact, was already talking about defeating Governor Andy Beshear in November. We do expect her and her running mate, Max Wise, to be here later this evening, and we expect to hear from her once the results are in. But that is the story for now from the Kelly Craft campaign. Back to you.
I'm Mariah Congito in Lexington at the watch party for Republican candidate for Governor Ryan Quarles. Tonight is the result of a year's worth of work for these candidates who are all hoping to have their name on the ballot this fall. Quarles has made a name for himself across the state of Kentucky over the last 8 years as the agriculture commissioner. Now, we caught up with him as he cast his vote this morning at Lemons Mill Elementary in Georgetown during perhaps one of his last interviews of his campaign tour. He said he'd feel like he's in a good spot if people in the farming communities showed out in large numbers today at the polls. He also said he was able to visit all 120 counties during his tour, which he says helped build momentum and support for his run. He continues to credit his campaign with staying positive and clean throughout. He is one of 12 candidates, and according to various polls, he's ranked in the top 3 with Kelly Craft and Daniel Cameron, though he says the only poll he cares about is tonight's. Coral's watch party goes until 11 o'clock tonight. Over the next few hours, the primary election will be over, and a Republican candidate for governor will be named for the general election in November. At the Ryan Coral's watch party, Mariah Conjito.
Well, Governor Beshear is watching the returns here in Frankfort, in the capital city of Kentucky, expecting to grab what is going to be his second straight Democratic nomination for the governor of Kentucky. Beshear does have competition, however, in this race. He does have 2 people running against him. One in candidate Jeff Young, who has made it a habit to run in numerous statewide and even some congressional offices as of late, and Pepe Martin, who ran unsuccessfully as a Republican Party candidate against Paul Patton in 1999. Beshear is expected to easily win, and we are told he will likely address us here at the Frankfort History Center sometime after 7 o'clock tonight. Now, Beshear is running for re-election after facing numerous challenges in his first term in office, of course, focusing on that the COVID-19 pandemic, the statewide issue, an issue facing the western end of the state of Kentucky in tornadoes, and of course the eastern Kentucky flooding. He has been standing up for job creation, stating that he has brought numerous jobs in the state of Kentucky, as well as massive economic development for the state. Here in Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
All right, we want to thank all of our crews out there. Important to note, we also have a crew with Attorney General Daniel Cameron in Louisville tonight, and we'll hear from them later on. Of course, most or all polls really have shown Cameron is the favorite to win this election. We'll see if that holds true later tonight. First results are starting to come in. We'll have those at the bottom of the screen as soon as we can get those up. And of course, you can also keep up to date on WYMT.com and the WYMT News app as those results come in real time. Well, as of about 5:30 this afternoon, the election fraud hotline had been pretty quiet, especially here in eastern Kentucky. There was one procedural complaint in Floyd, Lawrence, and Perry counties. When looking across the state, Jefferson County has 7 complaints so far. Otherwise, the hotline has not received many calls, and if you'll remember back last year when all the countywide races were up for grabs, there were hundreds of complaints received. So a very quiet day on the election fraud hotline, very quiet day overall. Again, the prediction was a 10 to 15% voter turnout. It may not even get that high, it sounds like, in some counties. So a very dismal turnout for this Kentucky primary election.